everyone, today I'm going to share with you a wartime recipe from the 1940s. It is for cod on a bed of mashed turnips. Now, back during the wartime period, they would have had salted cod and they would have to soak the cod to get all the salt out and then boil it up, and of course it didn't smell very nice. Well, these days it's not necessarily easy to get hold of salt cod, so I'm going to be using a normal piece of cod that we bought today from the fishmonger in Deal. Now, this recipe will serve 4 people. This is a beautiful piece of cod and this was about £10. It's nice and thick. So there'll be enough for us for tonight's meal, and then there'll be enough for a meal probably on Monday. We will reheat it and I'll cook some fresh vegetables with it as well, but there'll also be some mashed vegetables left. What I've done here is I've placed it in a dish and I've dotted some butter over the top. During the 1940s it would have been margarine. I don't have any margarine at the moment, so I just use a little bit of butter. I'm going to put a bit of salt on it, and I'm going to put a little bit of pepper, and I'm going to bake it in a fairly low oven. I've set the temperature to about 160 Celsius for 30 minutes. And then whilst the fish is baking in the oven, I'm going to prepare and boil up the vegetables. In the 1940s you would have used your margarine papers or whatever else you had available. These days it's not that common to find butter or margarine in normal paper anymore. Mostly it's foil. Sometimes if you get nice butter from the farm shop it will be in paper, but normally in the supermarket things are in foil, and it's just not the same. Sometimes the pattern can leak out onto food, which isn't very pleasant. You don't want that. That's covered now and that's going in the oven for 30 minutes. Now, originally this would have been all turnip. I don't have a lot of turnip. I have a bit of swede left over. This was from our £3 box. Please ignore the writing on my hand. This is the Nikola Tesla frequency. I've got it here for writing some new music. Just to remind myself, it's a 369 harmonic solfeggio. I've got some carrots, 2 nice carrots, and I have a sweet potato which needs using. I bought this before Christmas and had it in the fridge. We didn't get round to using this one. We had 2 or 3 other sweet potatoes that were quite large. I thought I might as well use it this evening. And I have a few leftover sprouts from last night's dinner, which I'm also going to mash into the vegetables when they've cooked. I'm chopping this into fairly small pieces. They're maybe about 2 centimetres. If you chop them into smaller pieces, they will cook quicker. What did you do today? As I said, we went to Deal. We really like it there. Today we went back to the Alga Farm shop and returned the plastic crate that had our £3 bargain fruit and vegetables in last week. And we had lunch in the cafe, and oh my goodness, what an amazing fish finger sandwich. Chunky fish fingers, doorstep sandwiches. I've never seen a sandwich as big as that, with homemade coleslaw and chips as well. Not a huge amount of chips, but certainly enough chunky chips. Like they were triple or cocked or something like that. Delicious. So we were in the garden this afternoon trying to burn off a few calories, and I had a good dance as well to Boney M in the back garden. So I like all those old hits by Boney M. I'm really into 1970s disco music, and I had a wonderful time dancing to Boney M and Donna Summer. Great fun. That piece escaped. This is a recipe that's quite straightforward, though it takes a little time to prepare. And I think a nice piece of fish for Saturday night dinner is a lovely way to end what has been a very pleasant day, all in all, and it's not too calorific either. When I was younger, when I was a little, and we lived in Zambia for 2 years, we ate a lot of fish. Meat was very expensive, so we tended to live off fish and vegetables. And Mum would often bake trout in the oven with lots of butter. And that's one of my best childhood memories where meals are concerned. And of course, in Zambia, everything just tasted so much fresher and had so much more flavour. So, for example, sweet potatoes just had so much flavour in comparison to the ones we get here because, of course, they're flown over. And mangoes had an intense flavour, and bananas. And we were lucky, we had a big back garden and grew a lot of our own fruit and vegetables. And I used to go back to school on Wednesdays for swimming club, and I had quite a lot of Indian friends who'd been kicked out of Uganda, and I used to take the mangoes off our tree and they used to give me bags of Bombay mix. Even back then I liked spicy food. I remember as well as a 6-year-old helping in the back garden, and I thought, I'll try one of these. It was a red chilli and it nearly blew my head off. I didn't do that again. This is the way you would have done it during the war, but you normally just use a teacup. But I need some of the water to make the sauce that goes with the fish dish. And I'll cook this on a low flame until the vegetables are tender, and it keeps as much of the nutrients in as possible. A couple of stems of this broccoli left over from the £3 veg box we had last week, and to be honest, it's in reasonably good nick. There's a little bit that needs cutting off, that isn't really fit to eat, but most of it's okay. And I just thought I would serve this as well on the side. It's a really healthy supper. I'm going to just cut that bit out. The rest is fit to eat. And I will probably do this in the microwave, which I take on board. You didn't have microwaves in the 1940s. This is artistic license. The recipe I'm going by, I'm making half a pint of sauce with capers in, and that gets poured over the fish before serving it. I'm going to do what they would have done a lot in the war, which is use the household milk. This is dried skimmed milk with vitamins A and D and calcium, high in protein, so it says. And of course this was used a lot during the war because there was normally a 3-pint a week milk ration per person, which isn't a huge amount. I'm going to do a 1/4 pint of the skimmed milk, so I need about 1 tablespoon heaped according to the instructions, and I'm going to top that up with water and stir it. So we're putting it up to the 3/4, which is 150 ml, and just stirring it. Now the recipe as well, when I come to do the sauce, talks about adding flour to whatever liquid the fish produces, and of course it'll be a little bit buttery, but I find it can be a little bit unpredictable. You have to watch it like a hawk. My mum did it this way, which I'll show you now. What my mum used to do, and this is what I do, I need about a tablespoon of corn flour. I'm using corn flour or cornstarch. I always use that rather than plain flour. You can use all-purpose flour though if you wish, but I use this. So I'm adding a good tablespoon, and I'm going to add a little bit of this skimmed milk, and I'm going to stir it till it's smooth. And that's perfect. It's a lot easier doing it that way, and it still cooks out. I usually add a little bit of the rest of the milk and give it a good stir, and then you find that it won't get lumpy. I've drained most of the water, which will be going in the sauce. Out of the way. And I'm going to mash these now, and I'm going to add the sprouts as well. Give it a good mash. I've kept a little bit of water in the pan because it helps to get the mash nice and smooth instead of using milk. It smells amazing already, and I've not even added salt and pepper, which I will do so now. The fish won't be ready for a little while, at least another 15 minutes. So we have plenty of time. And then just before serving, the mash gets reheated, and I'll put it on a big plate, and then I will top it with the fish and the sauce. It certainly makes an interesting centrepiece to any Saturday night or even Friday night meal. If you were having guests round for dinner, it would look stunning, and they'd never know that it was a 1940s recipe. It's so healthy as well. It works out about £2.50, £3 per serving with all the bits and pieces, which for a meal at the weekend isn't a huge amount of money, but it's a perfect supper party meal, and it's one of those things that's easy to prepare, and it kind of looks after itself apart from mashing the vegetables and doing the sauce. It's not very labour intensive at all. You could puree it if you wanted to with your whizzy stick, but I like it like this. I'm not really into gloopy mash. I like it slightly chunky with plenty of flavour and texture. I'm going to add some pepper. And I'm going to add a little bit of salt, not a lot, just a tad. The sauce is going over the top anyway, so you don't need to overdo this at all. And you certainly don't need butter. It's empty calories, you don't really need. I'm sure a lot of people would really appreciate this kind of a meal as well. And it doesn't break the bank, not for a weekend meal. I wouldn't normally spend as much as £10 on a piece of fish though for a weekday meal, but it's the weekend. There we go. That's done now. We're going to use quite a lot of this stock to make the sauce. I'm going to put the fish back in the oven, just covered over then with a bit of foil, until the rest of the meal's ready. I'm going to get a spoon and just spoon off some of the liquid. It's flaking off, it's beautiful. It might not stay in one piece, but that actually doesn't matter. We'll give it our best shot, but it might break. It'll be covered over with sauce though, so it really doesn't matter that much. But obviously if you were having a dinner party, you need to try and do your best to get it all out in one piece. I'm putting in the buttery liquid, and I'm also going to get the corn flour and add that. Stir it. I'm going to get some of the other liquid, top it up. This is the rest of the milk mixture. Now the thing with skimmed milk, when it's from powder, you need to keep your eye on it because it can catch really easily, and then it can taint. So it's important to do it slowly and methodically and keep stirring. You see, I've not had to add any butter whatsoever. All I've used is the poaching liquid, and see how nice and buttery it is. And it's healthy because I haven't had to add any extra, and I haven't added all of the liquid from the poaching either. And I'm measuring out another quarter pint of liquid, and that's actually just enough. That's from the vegetables, it's just enough. So we have exactly half a pint, which is a pretty good guess. Keep stirring. I'm going to add the rest of it now. I'm just adding a little bit of salt and pepper, just to give it some extra seasoning and flavour. Not a lot, because I put a little bit on the fish as well. I always use unsalted butter. We try not to have too much sodium in the house, but as a former chef, I don't like my food under-seasoned. I try not to overdo the salt though. It's better to let people put their own on that table if they need any extra. It's starting to thicken up quite nicely now. I'm adding some capers. This is a ½ tablespoon, and I need to add 3 tablespoons of capers. I'm making sure I drain off the brine before I add them. There are easier ways, but this is just for the purposes of this video. I need 3 more of this. Some people like to chop the capers up small, but we like our capers quite large, so we're not really bothered about that. But you do what you feel is best for you. There we go. And I'm going to continue stirring the sauce. It's thickening up nicely now. The other thing I've got which I'm going to add is a bit of parsley. We had some parsley a while back and Dan chopped it up and froze what we weren't using immediately, because fresh herbs from the supermarket can go off pretty quickly and we don't like wasting anything. So I'm adding some chopped parsley. There's probably a couple of tablespoons there. You don't have to add it. It's not in the original recipe. Just that we like parsley as well. It's such a great combination with fish. This is the sauce. It's nice and thick now. And I'm ready to serve. And I'll show you how it should be presented according to the 1940s recipe. There was a lot of brown food in the 1940s. Brown soups, brown stews, brown fish even, the tinned stuff, especially the snook. Might be a little bit tricky, but we'll see. It's not going to come out all in one piece. It's very tender. That's my only criticism about the way they're presenting it. It's not easy to get out in one big piece. I think it would have probably been better, rather than follow the recipe, to cut the fish in half. It would also cook quicker as well. It would be easier to get out. But that's beautiful, look. That's perfect. And then this gets spooned over the top of the fish. All over. Think of it as an old-fashioned cod in parsley and caper sauce. You know, like the bird's eye ones that you used to get. And here it is. I'm going to take that over to the table now, but it looks absolutely delicious and it smells gorgeous. Oh, it's so good. Well, I think that is a success. And this is the cod on a bed of mashed vegetables or turnips and a little bit of broccoli, and it's just perfect for an easy supper dish, or jazzed up a little bit more for a supper party. So do try it soon, it's well worth it.